All right, folks, welcome back to the 10th episode of Behind the Brand. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're honored to have you. My name is Anna Hendricks, and I'm the CEO of Arch Digital Agency, a full-service social media marketing agency specializing in the health and wellness industries. You can find out more about us at archdigitalagency.com. In addition to managing an agency, one of my greatest loves in life is the personal story. From growing up watching Actors Studios to my love of memoirs, biographies, and nonfiction books, the personal journey has become an obsession. I'm so inspired by the stories of normal people who did something extraordinary. But what fascinates me most isn't the pinnacle, but the climb. On B2B, we get to know people who have managed to take a typical life and turn it into a spectacular one. We'll be discussing the trials and successes, the quirks that make them who they are, and how they continue to grow as individuals. Today, we're discussing learn how to create passive income and travel like a boss with Johnny FT Jen. But first, I want to introduce my co-host and community manager, KP Kelly, who is a branding consultant and a Twitter marketing specialist at Arch. Thank you so much, KP, for all that you do.
You are welcome. Where's our yoga pose?
Yes. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce my ninth guest in this series, Johnny Jen. Johnny FD is a location-independent entrepreneur who began traveling the world in 2008, working as a scuba instructor, fighting professionally in the sport of Muay Thai kickboxing, and has been featured on Business Insider, Entrepreneur.com, England's top I-100 list, and even written about in the Danish magazine Information Denmark. Johnny has written 2 books, 12 Weeks in Thailand, The Good Life on the Cheap, and Life Changes Quick, Simple Tips to Getting Rich, Fit, and Even Love. He is also the host of the Travel Like a Boss podcast and the founder of the Digital Nomad Super Conference, the Nomad Summit. Thank you so much for being here, Johnny. We're glad you could make it.
Thanks so much. How's it going?
It's good. I was honestly like, I know you're like, not just going to, I was concerned. I was like, I hope everything is okay in Thailand and that you have internet, because of course I knew that internet can be sketchy. So, but I'm happy to have you. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I'm glad we finally got to hop on, because I last hung out with you 2 years ago in Saigon, out in Vietnam. And I've seen your brand blow up and mine as well. Everything that you just mentioned, that bio, happened in the last year. So 2 years ago, I had no brand. I didn't even have an Instagram. I didn't even have a Twitter.
I think you started your Twitter like right when I met you, because you were asking me for Twitter advice.
I think you encouraged me to start a Twitter, and you're like,
probably.
You should probably have one. I'm like, yeah, okay, I can do that.
I feel like you were like, wait, what is this? Like asking me about how the whole Twitter sphere goes, which is so confusing.
Yeah, I was completely lost. But I mean, I think thinking back, I should have just started anyways. It's one of those things where you'll never figure it out unless you start, and you never know where it's going to take you.
Definitely. Absolutely. Well, I'm so happy that you made it and that you're here. Before we jump into the show, even though we're running a little bit behind, let's go ahead and start off with our segment called Audience Asks. This is the part of the show where the audience can submit a question, and we all have 1 minute to answer it. So go ahead and pop in some questions, which you all have had plenty of time to come up with them now. And I will go ahead and get my timer ready. If we don't have one, then I will use my own question.
Very cool. I'm actually really excited for these questions. I see there's a ton of people in the chat. There's over 100 people in right now typing. So let's see what the
a lot of good people in here. We changed the title too, so if you want to share out the last 30 seconds, that'll help.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. In the top left-hand corner, if you click that orange button, I love that. So who wants to start?
Cheval's question.
Yeah, we'll just go with Cheval's question. What is your favorite country? Johnny, you have 1 minute.
It's definitely Thailand. I've been now to, I don't like fast travel. I don't like try to just see as many countries as I can. I try to go places for at least a few weeks, if not 2 months at a time. So I've been to South Africa, Australia, Central America, all across Asia, to Europe, And Chiang Mai, Thailand, especially, but all of Thailand, the beaches, the mountains, that is by far my favorite place in the world. Friendly people, it's cheap to travel, tons to do, tons to see, relatively safe, and you have to come here.
And just cut it in half. Just come. Okay. All right. Nicely done. All right, KP.
That could have been like a travel to Thailand infomercial. That was smooth.
You just need some like beach pictures in the background. Okay.
We can do
so
it.
Someone's asked like
space my camera
before, and a lot of my favorite my favorite country is the U.S., which is kind of boring, but I like my country. I got a lot of pride, and the country's got a lot to offer. Of different countries I've visited, I've kind of said before, I haven't gotten to vacation or spent a lot of time exploring cities. Most of the time when I've been in different countries, it's been for basketball, and I've been kind of in and out. One country like that not a lot of people get to go to is Iceland, which is not covered in ice, so that can confuse people. But it was one of the most peaceful places I've ever been to, and just very, very scenic. And I think just because I maybe didn't fully expect it to be as beautiful as it was, it took me by even more surprise. But Iceland is a country that you might not think of as being kind of a real cool place to visit, but it is. So that's my second one. I have plenty of time left. I usually take
7 seconds. Minute. 5, 4.
4.
KP always kind of hits the limit, so I'm always like, Iceland's amazing. Are you crazy? Like, I feel like everybody wants to go to Iceland these days.
Yeah, it's a good point. Iceland is green, Greenland is ice. It's true.
Okay, 1 minute. My favorite country. We've talked about travel here on the show a couple of times. And my favorite country is always the country I haven't been to yet. So I'm always kind of thinking forward. I've definitely traveled a lot. But I still have so many places to go. So I'm not trying to go backwards. I always want to go forwards and check out new places. So I think next trip is actually going to be Europe. That's kind of where I want to go.
Europe's not a country.
Europe. Okay, let's grab one more of these questions here, and then we will jump into Miss Carolina. Favorite food you've tried while traveling? Fun question from Miss Carolina. Okay, Johnny, you've got 1 minute. Go ahead.
My favorite food is new food. So I have a rule where even if I'm on a really strict diet, I normally eat some type of paleo or bulletproof diet while traveling, and I try to be in shape, year round. If I go to a new country and they have something I've never tried, I'll have it. I mean, that is my one rule. And also when it comes to fruit, I have a rule where if there's a fruit I've never seen or I've never tasted before, I have to buy it no matter where I am, what I'm doing.
Oh man. Did you try dog when you were in Vietnam?
Definitely not. So there's things I won't try. But I did have a banh mi, a Vietnamese sandwich, which was not in my diet at the time because I wasn't eating bread. But I figured, you know what? If I'm in Vietnam, I have to have their classic Vietnamese sandwich. Yeah. So I only had one my entire trip there. I had just had one, but I made sure it was the best. And if you guys Google lesbian banh mi, that is the spot.
I remember that. I remember when that happened, actually. That was kind of an epic little event. Yeah, the banh mi's are very good. I didn't have many either, but still very good. All right, KP.
Well,
what's your favorite food while traveling?
Yeah, it's all about pizza. But in the United States, if I travel to Chicago, I'm getting deep dish pizza. If I'm traveling to New York, there's like 20 great pizza places. A random thing. So Rome for 1 day, and there's a host family. Each of the guys on the team stayed with the host family, and they made me homemade pizza. And there wasn't much sauce on it at all, but the tomatoes are really fresh and the cheese, and it was just awesome. I don't know what they did, but it was very good. And I was 18 and they gave me a lot of wine. So You know, they were very fun. I don't think I played so well that next day, but you know, homemade pizza from Italy, that was pretty good.
Oh man. Now we're just gonna. I'm just gonna get hungry from this conversation.
It was gluten full.
Oh, you are so out of time. Okay. Favorite food while traveling. Yeah, I mean, I feel like my answer is basically Johnny's answer. Anything I haven't tried before, because I love trying new food. I'm always down for, I don't know, if it's strange or weird even, or even if it's, I don't know, like I definitely want to try whatever is local, whatever they're eating, how they're eating it. This, of course, was all pre-celiacs, so now I have to, unfortunately, be very cautious. But food for me is still about surprise, and I usually, wherever I'm at, I just like asking the question, like, what's the best thing here, or what do you really enjoy? Because then I usually end up getting the best thing. That always serves me really well.
I feel like too, when you've tried a good bit of food too that you didn't like. I remember some of those stories too. It's the risk of it being adventurous eater.
It happens, you know, it happens. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this show. Thank you all so much for your questions, and I'll definitely be pulling them in as we're walking through this interview. So folks, please make sure that you submit your questions as we're going through. I will definitely pull them in, and we will open up the seat for you all to jump in and talk with Johnny yourself. Sometime probably about like 9:15. We'll just kind of see where things are going. So again, Johnny, thanks so much for being here. I'm really glad that you were able to make it. So we're going to talk with Johnny about creating income streams abroad, traveling, lots of different things. But Johnny, you know, when I checked out your About page, and I know that first I kind of want to talk about where you came from and a little bit about your background. So, you know, you're someone who's very successful now. You've really created a brand for yourself. Like you're saying, a lot of these incredible things have happened to you just in the past year of your life. You know, you're making fantastic money now. You're living abroad. You're doing a lot of these things, but you were an uncomfortable kid. So let's kind of talk about, you know, your background, kind of growing up and where you came from.
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up in San Francisco, which sounds like a great place to grow up, but not when you're, you know, you're raised with immigrant parents that barely speak English and you can't really communicate with them, and they're working all the time because it's expensive to live there. So I didn't really have any role models growing up. I didn't really feel like I fit in. I was always really overweight, so I was never very comfortable in my own body. I always had the mentality of, you know, of work hard, you know, just, you know, don't like put your head down, don't be too vocal, don't make a scene. There wasn't social media back then, but if there was, my parents would be like, don't be on that. You know, you don't want people knowing who you are. You don't want to like voice your opinion. So it was a very, very different way of growing up compared to a lot of my friends who are, you know, also like successful now, or the typical successful business person. And so I was always very insecure growing up. I mean, and it's such a big difference of who I am today and the successful version of myself. But you know what? Maybe that built the foundation. Maybe that gave me the hunger to go through the things I needed to go through and do the work I needed to do to be where I am now. So I don't regret it at all.
Yeah. Where do you think that shift kind of started taking place in terms of kind of maybe like coming outward and, you know?
As embarrassing as it is, I read a book called The Game by Neil Strauss. It's about how to pick up women. And for the first time in my life, I was like, oh my God, like I don't have to be this insecure, shy guy. I can go out, I can learn how to do card tricks and every girl is going to want to talk to me. So I spent the next 2 years, you know, memorizing pickup lines, going to bars every Friday, learning how to do magic tricks. And none of that paid off, except it got me out of my shell. It forced me to have a lot of rejection and a lot of uncomfortable experiences. But more importantly, it opened my mind to reading self-help books. So I started reading, pretty much any book somebody, in these like weird forums would recommend. They're like, oh yeah, you got to read this book about body language. We got to, read this book about projecting your voice or eye contact or, even things that had nothing really to do directly with like how to walk up to somebody at a bar and say hello, but things like, okay, you need to get the right mindset. So you got to read the 21 Laws of Confidence or, whatever the book was. And that somehow led me to reading things like Rich Dad, Poor Dad and 4-Hour Workweek, which really had nothing to do with women at all. But I think I was very open-minded to it, or even The Secret. And it was because of that first book, that first journey that allowed me to be like, you know what? I don't have to be the person that I was kind of just thrown into this world as being. I have the power and the ability and there's the tools and knowledge out there where I can transform myself into who I really want to be. And I didn't know who that was at the time, but it turns out it's me. It's present in me.
Yeah. So how old were you then? Like when you first read that first book?
I think it was right out of college because I think in college I was okay because I wasn't very super social or anything, but I had my roommate, we had video games. I didn't really have any worries. and you would still meet people just because you're in college. But it was that year after that where I was, now living alone. I had a corporate job and all my coworkers were in their 40s or 50s and I didn't really vibe with any of them. I had just got out of a relationship, my college girlfriend who, we really weren't a good match. And the only reason why we're together is just because it was easier to stay together than it was to, be single again. So it was really hard for me to get out of that relationship and be completely alone. And I think that's when that happened. That's when I found that book.
Interesting. So reading this book got you out of your shell and kind of put you in a place where you were throwing yourself out there. And then it led you not only to kind of opening yourself up on a personal level, like your personality wise, but then it led you to books like 4-Hour Workweek, which we know amongst the online entrepreneurs is like basically the holy grail. So what was it like coming across this type of book? And would you say like for you, this was a life-changing book or was it a different one?
So yes and no. It was not the life-changing book the first 2 times I read it. It didn't change my life until I actually took action on the 3rd time I read it. And I think this is the kind of important life lesson is you can read the best book in the world with all the answers, but if you don't take action or if you don't truly believe in it or believe in it for yourself, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It was very easy for me to be like, oh, this is great for this guy. He has this, $1 million supplement company and he's already, he's already rich. He's already traveling the world. These principles are easy for him. But what can this do for me? In retrospect, it was enough information. And I've met people now who have read the book and I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And now they are far more successful than I am because they got started earlier. Luckily, I at least took 1 chapter from it. I said, let me focus on this elimination chapter where let me get rid of things I don't need really in my life. Things even like setting up for auto bill pay, which wasn't really that popular back in 2007, 2008. Let me get rid of my Netflix subscription. This is before Netflix and chill. And let me get rid of, all these things that aren't really necessary in my life that are just costing me money and spending my time so I can free up my life where I can take a 3-week vacation to Thailand. And that's all I wanted. I just wanted to be able to get away for 3 weeks. And that was step 1. And it wasn't until I actually came to Thailand and I read the book again on the plane where I decided, you know what, let me just do all 4 steps. Let me just live the 4-hour work week and give this a shot.
Nice. So we had a good question come in from David, since you're speaking about elimination. He said, what was one of the hardest things you had to eliminate?
Probably, it was selling my mattress. And it sounds so stupid, but I had just bought this super comfortable mattress. If anyone's in Southern California, it's called Custom Comfort Mattresses, I believe. And it was expensive. At the time it was, over $1,000, and that was a big investment for me. And the only reason why I bought it was because I figured, this is a big commitment. I'm gonna have this for the next 10 or 20 years. This is, I've earned this. I'm entitled to having a good night's sleep. And when I decided to make this trip to Thailand, and I wasn't sure how long it was going to come for. I didn't know if it was going to be for 3 months or 6 months or maybe a year. That was going to be like the big stretch. I thought, maybe I should just put this in storage. And if I had put that bed in storage, I probably would have went back that year later, because I would have had a bunch of stuff in storage. I probably would have had this, I would have had this extra expense. I would have had attachments back home. But the fact that I sold it, and I never even ended up collecting money because the guy was a bum. He promised to pay me, never did. But just the fact that I got rid of that bed, I got rid of everything else too. The only thing I kept were 3 boxes of things that I sent to my parents' house. One which is useless because it was my DVD collection. And the fact that I got rid of everything, that is what freed me up to do what I'm doing now.
Interesting. So, okay. So you at what point in time did you decide I want to go to Thailand? Like, when did that become a goal for you, and why?
I think I've always heard of Thailand as being this magical place where whoever comes here, they fall in love. Not necessarily with the Thai woman, which I'm sure that happens, but they fall in love with the country or the travel or like how exotic it is. And I've never met anyone who has come to Thailand and came back and said, oh, well, it was okay. Everyone who's ever been has been, wow, that's the most amazing trip of my life. You have to do it. So when my cousin, he was planning a trip out here for 3 weeks, I said, you know what? I'm going to do it, and I have 2 months to plan. I have 2 months to save up and automate my life and eliminate things, responsibilities. I think I can do it. And in retrospect, it was a lot, I don't want to say it was easier, but it was a lot more, it was 100% possible in retrospect. But I think when I was there, when I was planning the trip, it made me, I couldn't see through the forest. I couldn't see through the fog. It made it seem like it was a big deal.
Yeah. So you got to Thailand and you love scuba diving. So you got your license, correct? Like, you got your certification and then you started teaching, and correct?
Well, no, I actually didn't know I liked scuba diving. I didn't even really know what it was.
Okay. So tell us, how did that come about?
At my hotel, there was a tour operator, this nice lady, and every single day, me and my 2 cousins, Larry and Jacob, we would say, okay, what could we do tomorrow? What could we do? What tours do you have? And they would say, oh, there's this cooking class you can do. I'm like, okay, let's sign us up. And the next day they said, there's bungee jumping. We're like, okay, sign us up. And basically did that for 7 days straight. And on the very last day, we ran out of all the normal tours, and there was something called Discover Scuba Diving. So we're like, okay, let's do that. And I was so oblivious to what scuba diving was that actually all of us were. None of us brought a towel. None of us brought swim trunks. We all just showed up wearing like jeans and like a t-shirt or something, saying like, okay, we're ready to go scuba dive. And we didn't tell them that we've never done it before. We didn't tell them we weren't licensed. We just said, we want to do one fun dive. And for anyone who has been diving before, no one does one dive. Like, it's always you always do 2 or 3 dives during a trip, because it's a process to get like all your equipment and go out on a boat. So the fact that I said, I just want one dive, it's like going somewhere and saying, I want one shrimp. And if it wasn't for that happen chance, I never would have found my first passion. And I actually remember one of the reasons why I did all these crazy tours and things is because I had realized, I think it was actually from reading the game, that one of the things that you should talk about when you meet someone is what you're passionate about, and you should ask them about their passions. And at the time, I had no passions. I think pretty much my whole life growing up, I wasn't into sports. I didn't have any hobbies that I was really that I was really engrossed in. So I had no passions, and I felt like, well, you know what? Why would someone even want to talk to me? Because I have nothing interesting to talk about. And part of going to Thailand, part of doing all these crazy things was so I can tell people, yeah, I went bungee jumping in Thailand, or I rode an elephant. I did this, and it was more about bragging rights than it was self-discovery. But because of that, I legitimately found something that I loved, and it was scuba diving. So that is pretty much the reason why I said, I'm selling all my stuff, I'm moving to Thailand. And it wasn't for travel, it wasn't for business. It was just so I can learn how to become a dive master and work as one.
And how long did you do that for?
Over 2 years. I think it was 2 or 3 years, off and on. And it was cool because it led me across the world. I started in, one side of Thailand, went to the other, explored all the different islands here in Thailand. I went to the Caribbeans for a while, went to Australia for a while. And I even went to Borneo, which most people don't even know where that is. But it was one of those things where I really loved it for a few years. But I think it's one of those things that you get island fever. A lot of people don't realize that it's a real thing. Even if you're on the most magical, tropical, beautiful resort in the world where everything is taken care of, after usually about 3 to 6 months, you want to move on. You want to go do something else. And that lasted for about 2 or 3 years before I decided, you know what? I think I'm done diving for a while.
So had you come across, at what point in time was it that, because you were also into the Muay Thai, kickboxing, and I think you were still scuba diving then, is that correct? Or was that after?
I think it kind of happened at the same time where I had discovered Muay Thai, which is the kickboxing version of Thailand, while I was a scuba diver, and I wanted a way to get in shape. I wanted something to do in my spare time, and I didn't want to just go to the gym. And I thought, hey, I'm in Thailand, I might as well learn the sport. And what I would do is I would get pulled back and forth. I would think, I want to work as a dive master, I want to go to this island, but they don't have Muay Thai. So let me find an alternative. Let me find an island that has both. And there's no such thing. There's no such thing as an island that has amazing diving and amazing Muay Thai, except for maybe Phuket. But at the same time, it's one of those things where if you're diving, you get so tired. It's really draining on your body. They're long days out. Sometimes you have to wake up at sunrise. You're not back until sunset, and you have all this you have all these gases in your body from the built up pressure and things like that. So you're not even really supposed to exercise afterwards. So what I would do is I would take 3 months or, usually about 3 months of just doing Muay Thai. And then I would go back to just doing diving for a season. And it was actually kind of fun. I mean, it's almost like, being a ski instructor during the winter and a scuba diver in the summer. It's kind of the dream job. But I would do it every 3 weeks. Every 3 months or so.
Nice. So at what point in time, when did you start getting into business? When did you start shifting out of?
It wasn't until 2013. So it actually wasn't that long ago. I always had blogs. Never made any money from my blogs. I mean, maybe, if you add all of it up, maybe $100 total. And then it wasn't, that wasn't the point, and also I had no idea how to monetize it. I just blogged because I was bored and I enjoyed doing it. I wanted to share my story. I wanted to tell my friends and family back home what I was up to, what I was doing, especially back then, Skype wasn't really available. You couldn't really FaceTime. There was no Blab. So, I had to blog, I had to write down, what I've been up to. It's the only place I can really share photos. And it was at a point where I had my last Muay Thai fight, my 6th fight, and my body was just wrecked. I turned 30 and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's taking me so long to heal. I was okay, but I was never that great. I was like, there's no way this is going to be a career. I didn't want to go back to diving because I got really tired of working, 7 to 13 days in a row with no breaks and my body was also just getting wrecked from it. And I had decided, I said, you know what, before I hate diving, before I start losing my passion for this, I'm going to take a break, and I'm not going to go back until I can afford to be one of the resort guests and not the guide. You know, and it's a big difference. You know, it's a very, very different experience when you're on holiday and you can just, you know, show up, wake up whenever you want, have a nice breakfast, walk to the boat and go on a fantastic day of diving, versus having to wake up 1 or 2 hours earlier, set up the boat, carry these tanks, and then stay an hour or two afterwards to clean up and wash all the gear and set up for the next day. So I had realized I either need to give up and say, I'm going to go back to the US, get a normal job, or I have to figure out another way to make money. And luckily I had decided the latter.
So you got into dropshipping, right?
No, right before that was my first online business. The first, $600 I ever made online was selling my ebook. It was 12 weeks in Thailand, The Good Life on the Cheap.
Okay. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So when I was deciding, like, well, how can I make money online? Somebody has suggested, why don't you turn your blog into an ebook? And I said to them, why would I do that? Why would anyone pay for it? All the information is free. And if you go to 12 weeks in Thailand, myfightcamp.com, which was my old blog about Muay Thai, in there, if you do enough searching, you can piece together 80% of the book. And you can say, how did you get started? Where's the best gyms to train at? Where's the best place to scuba dive? What's the cost of living? How do you save money? How do you avoid getting scammed? How do you, all this? And somebody had mentioned, they're like, look, most people don't want to do that. They want an easy to read story that is prepackaged, that has a nice intro, has a nice flow, has an arc, has an ending, and they are happy to pay money for that. And I thought, okay, let me give this a shot. And this is before I had ever met anyone who has ever published a book or self-published a book. This is before I knew anyone who made money online, and I was the only person just sitting in my room, alone with a bunch of Muay Thai fighters that didn't speak English. And I just put my head down for 2 months and I said, let me just bang out this book. And I was very happy that the very first month, probably because I'd been giving free value to all my blog readers for the past 2 years, I'd sold $600 worth of books. And I thought, this is it. This is my life. I'm going to be an author. I'm going to just keep selling books, and I'm going to live the good life on the cheap.
And so what happened?
Because
we know that you didn't continue writing books. You did write one more, but that was pretty recent. So
yeah, well, so what happened was I put the book on Amazon, which actually destroyed my profits, because when I was selling it directly through my website, directly through my fight camp, I was selling it as like a premium guide to Thailand, and I was selling it for $35. But as soon as I put it on Amazon Kindle, they forced me to lower the price to $9.99 just because of their pricing structures. And they also started taking 30%. And my monthly profit for selling the same amount of books went from $600 to $200. And it wasn't enough to live. Even though Thailand's very cheap to live, the cheapest I can kind of get by on is around $600 a month. So it forced me to look into something else. And in retrospect, who knows what would have happened. I honestly think that if I had kept it on my own platform, I probably would have learned how to market it better and found alternative traffic sources besides just my blog. And I probably would have grown that, $600 figure up. Maybe I'd be making $1,000 a month from my ebook now. But luckily that didn't work out, and I was forced to figure out another source of income. And that's when I met this guy named Anton and asked him, what he does. And he told me about dropshipping. And I went home and I looked on Wikipedia, what dropshipping is. And then I signed up for his course. And I think it was 2 months later, I was like, this is it. This is the dream.
So I know that dropshipping is going to be just like a crazy unfamiliar term for a lot of people that are on the show or listening by podcast. So will you explain to us what dropshipping is?
Yep. It's quite simple. So I originally before I even wrote the book, I wanted to sell a physical product. I said, hey, I'm in Thailand. Why can I export some furniture? Like there's these bamboo chairs behind me. Like, can I sell these? And everyone was like, don't do that. It's going to be a headache. It's going to be so much money in inventory. You have to, so let's say I wanted to sell this chair, right? I would have to export this to the US, have it stored in a warehouse somewhere. I would have to set up a website somewhere, sell the chair, have my, someone pack this chair, ship it. And every time I sell one, I'd have to probably buy one or two more just to have more inventory. So not only would it cost, $10,000, $20,000 to start of buying inventories, every time I would get a sale, not only would I have to pay someone to ship it, but I would also have to buy more inventory. So this is a great model if you have a great product that everyone wants to buy and you have a ton of money to just keep reinvesting. But I didn't. I had no money and I didn't have a product. So when I learned about dropshipping, I realized you can get a product like this, pretty much any product in the world, and as long as you find the right supplier, they will ship it for you only after you've submitted the order. So what that means is you can start listing and selling items through your website. And once someone's actually paid for that order and they say, I want 4 chairs, then you actually go to your supplier and say, please charge my card for 4 chairs, but charge me my wholesale price, ship it directly to the customer. I never even want to see it, especially because I'm in Thailand and you and the customer are both already in the US. And I'm going to make the difference between the wholesale price minus shipping, and whatever retail price I charge my customer. So to make it very simple, it's an easy way to start selling physical items without carrying any inventory and without shipping yourself.
Yeah, I remember when I first started learning about dropshipping when I was in Vietnam, and I was just blown away. And at one point in time, a couple of our friends actually were trying to talk me into it. So I was like looking at products about like which ones I should sell. And so when you're choosing your product, you want to take into account what people are searching for online, right? So I feel like you don't talk about what you finally landed on, right? So how was it like, that you kind of came about that, the product that you are selling now? You don't have to tell us what it is, but just kind of let people know a little bit more about that process so they kind of understand more of what goes on.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where even like between friends, it's a very secretive thing. Not really because... And I was kind of angry at my close friends who I knew had profitable stores. And I was like, why don't you just tell me? I'm not gonna take your niche. I'm not gonna like compete with you. Like, just tell me. And they would say like, trust me, it's not a good idea if you know. And when I did find out what they are, what I was so focused thinking, man, I wish I would have thought of that. That is the only good niche in the freaking world. Now mine sucks. There's nothing else out there. I'm just gonna give up. And with every single store I've ever started, I had that exact same thought where I thought it was a crappy niche. Even though I did the research, it had fit all of Anton's criteria. I'd followed the course. Before I made that first sale, I would always think my niche sucks. And the problem with saying like like my niche is bamboo chairs, for example, is you start thinking, okay, what else is exactly like a bamboo chair? Like maybe I can sell a teak chair, or maybe I can sell whatever. And you end up getting very narrow-minded and start, focusing on just that. And you'll probably never think of something successful. So that's one big reason. But I actually ended up writing a blog post. If you go to johnnyfd.com and search, I think, Tiffany Lamp collection, which is a store I no longer own, but I made a case study. I said, you know what? People are like really curious. They're like, what are you guys selling? Is it like this crazy ninja stuff? Like, no, it's just like pretty common household items or things that you'd buy, in a store that doesn't have a great selection. So well, the reason why...
Sorry. So, no, I was just going to say when I was looking into, for my supposed store, like, and I wanted something really fun, like bracelets or like, something fun to market. And it was like, storage units outside were going to be like awesome, and it was just like that's because you want to choose something that people are really searching for and something that's popular online, right?
So my advice would be to find something that people need that they're gonna buy anyways, and there's not like a huge selection at Target or Walmart, and it's something that like it's actually better for it not to be something that you're super passionate about, because if you're selling something like, for example, drones, right? You're probably not gonna go online and be like, okay, I need a drone, let me just buy it. You're gonna think, okay, let me do 3 months of research and let me read as many reviews as possible. Let me buy 4 of them, try all of them out, and return 3. That's not the kind of customer you want. The kind of customer you want is someone that's like, I need, this window frame. I need 20 of them because I'm starting a coffee shop. Where can I buy it? Okay, Home Depot only has it in silver. I need it in bronze. Let me see if I can find bronze window frames online. And it's these boring things that actually do best. These kind of utility things that you don't really think about. And you just like, is it something that people need? Is it something that people have a bit of trouble, finding a selection of in stores? Is it expensive enough where I can make a good profit from it? And I mean, to be honest, like I'm sure because Anton, you probably went through his course. If you were actually going to do it, I would honestly just take a course, because there's so many little questions like this, and a lot of it's more just mindset. Like I think now he even has like a PDF where he's like, here are 47 niches that you can try, and it's because people keep asking him like, what's a good niche? What's a good niche? And he he knows, and we know that like it doesn't really matter in the beginning what the niche is. So now he just gives that away as like a way to collect your email address and start communicating with you. But it's one of those things where I don't recommend it to anyone to be like, let me sell something that I'm super passionate about, that I want to dedicate my life to. I think of dropshipping and e-commerce in general as a great first step to learning online business. And you will become passionate about your customers, about, making them happy no matter what you sell, and you're going to be passionate about building online business. You're going to be passionate about being able to travel and having the financial and money, and time freedom. Even now, I mean, like this morning I woke up with 2 sales, and that is enough money to basically pay my rent, pay for my expenses for the day. So, and it's 8 a.m. here. So for the rest of the day, I can focus on things that I really enjoy doing, whether that's writing another book or creating a podcast or being here on Blab. And I love it. I mean, I wouldn't have done anything different. And my ex-girlfriend, Larissa, she wanted to do the same thing. She was like, I'm teaching English. I like it, but I can't imagine myself, I'm stuck. I'm tied down in Thailand. Like, I want to do dropshipping as well. So for hers, we actually documented the whole thing. So if you go to johnnyfd.com and search 30-day new store challenge, we actually basically live blogged about the whole process. We're like, day 1, this is what we're doing to look for a niche. Day 2, this is what we're doing to call suppliers. Day 3, we're doing this. So if you guys are interested, that's probably the easiest way to see the whole overview of what it takes to start a store.
So how many niches did you go through before you finally hit your successful one?
A lot. And what was funny is, so even though it was a 30-day challenge, it in reality took us close to 2 months, which I think is pretty average for most people. The problem was we were traveling at the time, and we were in Borneo, which is like the jungle. This is where they have live orangutans, they have like proboscis monkeys, all these crazy things, and they don't have good internet. So what we did during those 2 weeks is we said, what, let's just, start making lists of niches, and we'll just kind of slowly research it, and we won't get started until we get back to Chiang Mai. So she made a list of like 60 niches, and she was really proud of them. And when we sat down to go through them, I just started throwing them out like they're garbage, like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And she was so angry at me because she thought she felt like it was a personal attack on her, saying like, oh, these niches suck, your ideas suck. But it's not about that. It's about making a huge list of 60 things that could work, and then just picking the one that has the best chance of working. Not saying that the other 59 suck, but why not make a huge list and just pick that one clear winner?
Yeah. Well, I think she was really lucky to have you. there, kind of guiding her through all of that. You do have a little bit of experience.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, that's what the course is for. That's why there's a community. That's why there's like a private members forum. All these things are, and even today, I log in every single day, even though I don't really have an incentive to. I log into Anton's forums every day, and I just answer people's questions who are starting out. And he actually has this new program where he's going to, because he's so busy and he can't answer everyone's questions. He just put out an email saying anyone who's making over $10,000 in sales a month, you can apply to become a paid coach where, we'll pay you hourly or monthly to answer people's questions who are starting out. And I actually didn't sign up for that just because I'm not doing this necessarily for the money, because I have other income streams. But I'm still going to do it just because I enjoy doing it. But I'm actually kind of happy that he's starting to pay people to do it, because that'll incentivize them and also, allow them to spend their time helping out people who are getting started, because I know how important that is.
Well, it adds credibility to it as well. I mean, like we place a lot more value in things that, that are cost, right? Free sounds fun, but then we don't really take free seriously. I know I have a free counselor. I may go whenever I want, right? Because it's free. But if I'm paying for it, like, I'm going to show up. So let's kind of, what I want to do is I kind of want to start wrapping down the show so that we can open up the seat and let some folks jump in. Let's just kind of talk about next steps for you real quick, like what you hope to be doing with your business in the next couple of years, where you want to go. What do you want to do?
I like helping people. I like interviewing people. I like being on shows. I throw a big conference called the Nomad Summit, which was 250 digital nomads from around the world gathering to learn from each other. I think this is my calling. I'm actually, it's funny, everyone thinks I'm the dropship master because I have all these successful stores and I post my income about it online. But I'm actually not that good at it. I'm just like a little bit above average. There are people who, really, most of them, I think the only reason why people think I'm so good at it is because I'm very profitable and I talk about it a lot and I show it. But there are people who are way more profitable than me that have stores that are way bigger or have more stores. They just don't talk about it because they're either busy running their stores or they just don't have the personality to jump on camera on a mic, or they kind of want to just keep it secret, right? So I've never been that great at Muay Thai. I am, I'm not like, I can't hold my breath for longer than 90% of the people who are great free divers. I'm not that special, but what I am special about is I don't mind. And I not only do I not mind, I enjoy, being out and sharing my story and I think it's because these are things I wish I would have learned in my 20s or even as a teenager. And I'm so grateful that we have this platform now, not only Blab, but with my podcast and my blog and everything. I think this is what I want to focus on. I want to help other people get started, and I want to, hopefully either inspire them or give them the tools where they can not necessarily just do dropshipping, but do whatever kind of location independent online business that they are fitted to do.
Awesome. Well, I know that you'll be incredible at that, and I love your passion for it. Where can people get a hold of you online? Where would you like them to connect with you?
Yeah, so I saw a ton of questions inside the chat about job shipping and business. Sorry, we don't have time to get to all that, but if you go to johnnyfd.com, that's my blog, and you just do a search, I've talked about all that, how to compete against Amazon, my favorite books, all my recommended resources, things like that. If you want to listen to interviews with me and people who I've met while traveling that have location independent businesses, my podcast is travellikeabosspodcast.com, or just search for it on your favorite podcast app. Those are the two easiest ways. Obviously, if you guys are on Blab right now, you can just click my name and follow me here or follow me on Twitter.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much for everyone who hung out with us tonight and stayed around to meet Johnny and to hear his story. We really appreciate your support for Behind the Brand, and we will see you soon. Thanks so much. KP, for all that you do. We'll see you
KP.
soon.